First, tech aficionados from around the world descended upon Miami Beach this week for the second annual Emerge Americas Conference. In between networking, discovering new innovations, and sharing cutting-edge ideas, a topic that frequently came up was the need for education to prepare for this rapidly growing future, if not present, in technology. So how do we stay competitive? A new program at one local college hopes to do just that with a really important partnership. Here to tell us more about this exciting new course, we welcome Jim McKelvey, co-founder of LaunchCode, a nonprofit that works in partnership with Miami-Dade College's Idea Lab, bridging the tech talent gap in South Florida. He's also co-founder of the mobile payments company Square. I would like to say, for full disclosure, I chair the board of trustees of Miami-Dade College, but when we interviewed here at Channel 2, Jim, a couple of days ago at Emerge, the story was so important and compelling, we just felt we had to bring you here.
Yes, thank you. This is fantastic. We're trying to get the word out about LaunchCode and what we're doing here in South Florida.
So first of all, what is LaunchCode?
So LaunchCode is a unique way to get a job in technology. So it turns out that there are a lot of people who have the skills to do the work for these fantastic tech jobs, but they can't get in the door. Companies have very restrictive hiring practices. For instance, they require college degrees, they require certain amounts of experience, and it turns out that a lot of good programmers are self-taught. So they can do the work, but they don't have the credential. So what LaunchCode does is provide an alternative credentialing where we interview people who have tech skills, we assess those skills, and then we say, well, based on the skills that you have, here are 30 or 50 or however many potential jobs in the region.
There's something so fascinating about that because to some degree, and we see it in education, especially early learning, there's something intuitive when it comes to the use of technology, if it's smart technology, if it's designed in a way that a consumer can really interface properly. Kids don't need a manual. I grew up with manuals.
Yes.
But today you just give a kid something and they play with it. They'll figure out the iPad much more quickly than somebody older.
Technology that is well designed should disappear. In other words, we don't think about how to use this cup, it's just intuitive, and a good piece of technology is invisible.
Okay, so we do need to have certification, we do need to have a process so that we can ascertain how talent is qualified for a certain job. And that requires some education, some formal education, for some people at least.
Certainly, you have to acquire the skills. The thing that's interesting about computer programming is that most of the real learning occurs in very small groups or by yourself. So a lot of programmers from Silicon Valley don't have any formal credentials. And what we have in the United States, right now the Obama administration has identified 500,000 jobs open today that are not being filled because we don't have trained people. And the terrible irony of this is that the sort of training that people would need to get these jobs is actually very easily available. You can train at boot camps, you can train at community colleges, you can train at four-year institutions, you can train in your basement, you can train online. And only a very small portion of the people who get training achieve credentials that then get them hired by the employers. So what LaunchCode does is we say, look, it's open to all. All you have to do is come into LaunchCode. It's launchcode.org. We test online and then we do an interview in person. And once we have assessed your skills, we tell you one of two things. Either here are a bunch of places you can go to work today, or here's where your skills are deficient and here are your options.
So LaunchCode is open door, which is what a community college is too. So there's a partnership that you've got there that the mindsets are similar.
Yes, so it's a fantastic partnership. Right now we're working at the Idea Center with Miami-Dade College, and they provide a fantastic bridge because we have right now this program from Harvard University. So it is it's world-class education from Harvard, but the Harvard program has a very low pass rate if you take it by yourself. So if you want to study this curriculum, you do it online by yourself, and the pass rate is 1 to 4%.
Just out of curiosity, and I know you must have spoken with them or dealt with them, who was Harvard intending this to be for?
Well, so I don't speak for Harvard, but,
no, I know,
this was intended for their undergraduates and their graduate students. So it is the exact class that they teach at Sanders Hall in Cambridge. But what they did, David Malin and the faculty at Harvard decided to make this make the courseware available free online. So what we noticed at LaunchCode was that many of the people that we were placing into jobs had less skills than people who were graduating from this Harvard class. And it's just one class. So no prerequisites. You can take this one class and get to a level where you're essentially employable. Now, it's a tough class. And if you do it by yourself, you don't have a very high chance of passing. So there are things you can do to improve those chances. One is work with a friend. The other thing is to have a local support group. So Miami-Dade College is doing essentially all the stuff that is missing from the online class. So they have regular schedules, they have teachers' assistants, and they have all the support structures, the classrooms, the Wi-Fi, all the things that essentially bring it up to close to the level of what the experience you would have if you were a student in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Incredible. So you get a certificate when you complete this course if it's the only thing that you're doing?
I think they offer a certificate. I don't know that it's required.
So how does a company know that, I mean, how does a company ascertain, because companies, the private sector is the one that's not sure if the talent they're hiring is credentialed or not. So how do you?
So that's what LaunchCode does.
Okay.
LaunchCode basically
ascertains. You
right.
certify that this person
we
is
certify
capable.
Because look, you can take this class and you can kind of let your friends help you on the homework and not really learn the material and kind of squeak by. That doesn't count. You have to actually learn the material. But if you learn the material,
so you're a screener.
Yes, we're a screener. Yeah.
So cool. So exciting. So the cost to the student is what?
So the cost to the student right now is unknown. It's free for many students. So CareerSource South Florida has given Miami-Dade College a very large amount of money to make this course free for most of their constituents. So those are people who are, and I don't want to name them off the top of my head, but anyone who is in a disadvantaged way.
I can speak and say that 60% of the students at Miami-Dade College are Pell Grant recipients.
Okay, so they would qualify. Yeah.
There's need-based students.
Yes,
many.
but understand this, it's not just for students. This class is open to all. So a lot of the people that we see at LaunchCode are people who are changing careers. They're people who, for instance, I'll give you a great example of someone we got a job for last week. Somebody heard me speak, and their cleaning lady, her daughter was working in this dead-end job in an hour away from her house, earning $11 an hour. She is now in a LaunchCode apprenticeship with MasterCard, making $15 an hour, okay, which is not a huge raise, but there's a 90% chance that she will get a $47,000 a year salary with full benefits, full medical at MasterCard, one of the best employers in the country.
Gosh, a job with benefits.
Yes, a job with benefits.
A job with benefits.
But a job with benefits.
People don't realize that that's almost another salary in and of itself.
It's fantastic. And, this is life-changing because here was somebody who was capable of doing the work, but they were stuck in a customer service job where they couldn't get any break. And so a lot of the people that are taking advantage of LaunchCode and these free classes are not just students. They're people who, they're in their 30s or 40s. They're going on second careers. We placed a guy last month who was 58 years old. We got him a job.
So why do people say technology is disruptive? To be disruptive is not necessarily a negative thing.
Well, certain things need to be disrupted. So if there's a problem, we think of it as, in Silicon Valley, everyone thinks of disrupting as good. Certain things need to be disrupted. There are a lot of inequality. So one of the things that I think should be disrupted is, some of the for-profit educational models. There are some educators out there that take people's money, give them lousy training, and then send them on the job market with no marketable skills. And the real crime is that they sell their services as, we're going to get you this path to these great jobs. So I'd love to see that disrupted. And the fact that we've got world-class education, from the likes of Harvard and actually other institutions as well, and can bring that using a very, very efficient model that takes advantage of Miami-Dade College's resources, that's disruptive. Because you asked me how much the class cost. At the most, it will be $200. We're working with other sponsors to get that free for everybody. We don't have all the sponsorship lined up, but right now I can say it's free for almost everybody. And if it's not totally free, look, it's $200. You get to go to Harvard's curriculum, and then this leads to a job very, very quickly.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting is that technology, love it or not, you can't leave it. You have to either embrace it or you will lose out.
Sure. So technology you can't avoid it. The only technology I've been able to eliminate from my life is my channel changer. So in our house, WPBT2 is the only station that our TV receives.
This is a good man.
No, this is our son watches this relentlessly. So we took away the channel changer because he's 4. So there's no channel changer, but he can turn the TV on and off. And if it's on this station.
But that's amazing. That's amazing that you can have that kind of control.
Yeah, well, we got rid of.
But you're controlling technology as opposed to technology controlling you.
I threw away 100-some channels in order to have that simplification in my life. But yes, technology it's pervasive. And the other thing that's interesting is that employers these days are all tech companies. So in South Florida, we have most of the major employers, but you think about Burger King, you think about Carnival Cruise Line, you think about Ultimate Software. Well, they're all tech companies. Now, Ultimate Software is, thought to be a software company, but it turns out that Carnival also develops a lot of software. And they all need engineers. There is a shortage of coders throughout business today.
Absolutely extraordinary, Jim. And just very briefly, if you can, 30 seconds, how did you get involved in technology? What's your background?
So I was trained as an engineer. My dad was an engineer. I always liked to build things. And I would never really thought of myself as a programmer, but it was one of the skills I acquired when I was in college, and then it turns out to be a very useful skill. So I don't think of myself as a programmer solely, but I can write code. And it's just one of the tools that's really helpful to have in any walk of life. One of the cool things that we've got right now at LaunchCode, I'm going out to LA next week, and we have LaunchCode jobs at all the major film studios. So if you want to get into TV, if you want to work at Sony, you want to work at DreamWorks, you want to work at any of these big companies, we've got meetings where we'll have on-ramps for people who know how to program, get into TV and films.
So cool. Jim McKelvey, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much.
First, tech aficionados from around the world descended upon Miami Beach this week for the second annual Emerge Americas Conference. In between networking, discovering new innovations, and sharing cutting-edge ideas, a topic that frequently came up was the need for education to prepare for this rapidly growing future, if not present, in technology. So how do we stay competitive? A new program at one local college.
Fantastic tech jobs, but they can't get in the door. Companies have very restrictive hiring practices. For instance, they require college degrees, they require certain amounts of experience, and it turns out that a lot of good programmers are self-taught. So they can do the work, but they don't have the credential. So what LaunchCode does is provide an alternative credentialing where we interview people who have tech skills, we assess those skills, and then we say, well, based
College hopes to do just that with a really important partnership. Here to tell us more about this exciting new course, we welcome Jim McKelvey, co-founder of LaunchCode, a nonprofit that works in partnership with Miami-Dade College's Idea Lab, bridging the tech talent gap in South Florida. He's also co-founder of the mobile payments company Square. I would like to say, for full disclosure, I chair the board of trustees of Miami-Dade College, but when we interviewed here at Channel 2, Jim, a couple of days ago at Emerge, the story was so important and compelling, we just felt we had to bring you here.
Yes, thank you. This is fantastic. We're trying to get the word out about LaunchCode and what we're doing here in South Florida.
So first of all, what is LaunchCode?
So LaunchCode is a unique way to get a job in technology. So it turns out that there are a lot of people who have the skills to do the work for these fantastic, and the skills that you have. Here are 30 or 50 or however many potential jobs in the region.
There's something so fascinating about that, because to some degree, and we see it in education, especially early learning, there's something intuitive when it comes to the use of technology, if it's smart technology, if it's designed in a way that a consumer can really interface properly. Kids don't need a manual. I grew up with manuals.
Yes.